Good morning. I'm going to present in this video an exercise called Scrotal Compressions. And this exercise is from Cultivating Male Sexual Energy by Montauk Chia. In the past few years that I've been practicing Seminole Kung Fu, this exercise has been sometimes neglected, but it is for sure, based on my experience, the most beneficial exercise that a man can do. One, to tame his sexual energy, and two, to create a more stable connection with the earth. So it's very strange, this connection with the earth. We connect to the earth through our feet, but energetically we also connect to the earth through our Qing Qi, the sexual energy that we cultivate in one of the lower energy centers of our body, which is the testicles. So sexual energy, my understanding in my own body, and this is not an anecdotal thing. This part is not necessarily straight from the book, but this is my own experience. Sexual energy can be conceived of as a ball. So like a dantian, right? A ball of energy or a chakra. And in my experience, the difficulties of retaining the seminal fluid or having sexual intercourse for longer periods of time or any amount of time has to do with the size and space that this sexual energy takes up, or the size of the container in which the sexual energy is stored. So I would say for most men, the sexual energy container is very small for all those different reasons. So the reason I speak on this is when you're practicing the compressions, in the beginning, it's going to feel like the energy that you're moving down into the testicles is moving kind of slowly. And that is because the container, like imagine trying to compress a large quantity of air, or let's say imagine trying to compress 5 gallons of air or chi or anything, compressing 5 gallons of pressure into a container that's only a quart, okay, or like a pint jar, right? 5 gallons is big, lots of pressure. A pint jar or a quart jar is pretty small. And so that's the kind of thing that we're working with here. So the process is really simple. The practice is a little bit more difficult. The process is I'm sitting on a like a log, basically. I want to be sitting up, so I want my knees to be below my hips. I'm going to be resting my hands right on tops of my knees. I'm wearing loose sweatpants. Montauk Chia says, practice either without any pants on at all or just wearing loose something so that your balls can hang out. I'm going to swallow. I'm going to inhale, gather air in my mouth. This is something that I developed because it made it easier for me to swallow. Like I have food in my mouth. I'm gonna inhale maybe 75-80% capacity into my mouth, swallow it, right? Swallow it, feel the saliva, feel the swallowing in my throat, and immediately you will feel pressure in the chest. Okay, unless you already are a high level, meditator and you're working a lot with these lower energies, there's going to be a lot of pressure in the chest, around the heart, around the lungs, and everything. So after I swallow the air and the air is moving down, right? Swallowing is naturally going to bring energy down toward the stomach, down into the digestive system. And so what we're doing is we're going to gather that energy, swallow, bring it down, and then almost like being in an elevator. Okay, you push the button in the elevator, the doors close, and then you're going to go down to the basement. Okay, so you're going to go down to the basement. It's going to be slow, and there's going to be stuff in the way, or maybe there's going to be stops along the way, right? There's other people getting off at other floors higher up than the basement. So first place you're going to notice pressure is around the heart. You're going to probably notice that the heart is beating a little bit more rapidly. You're going to hear it. It's going to become more audible and felt in your body. It's because you're putting pressure on it. You're turning your focus internally. And then it's going to move down into the sternum. Then it's going to move down into the navel, the solar plexus area. And then it's going to move down through the digestive system and into the genitals. Okay, remember, 5 gallons of pressure into a pint. Okay, so what we want to do is we're working that space. We're opening that space, the container for sexual energy. We're slowly working it open, it's like we're softening so that we can pry or stretching it open. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do it forcibly because that's going to be really difficult. So the key in this practice is relaxation. Now I'm just talking about it because doing it is actually really simple. So that's a really short one, right? Just to illustrate what's happening. I swallowed, it was here, it started here, it's moving down. So it moves down fairly quickly for me, and I could obviously practice more. It's good to have a timer. I used to count in my mind, which is a terrible idea because you can't really relax your whole body when your mind is counting. So just putting your phone next to you or having a stopwatch. I use a watch so that I don't have to use my phone. And setting the timer for 45 seconds. 45 seconds is a really great place to start. It's going to exercise. It's going to really make you work. And pretty soon, with a couple of repetitions of this a day, a couple of rounds, you should be getting to a minute. A minute is the guidepost. A minute is where you're supposed to get. So that after you've held the seminal fluid for a few weeks, up to a month, holding your breath for up to a minute or more is going to really generate a lot of power. So the energy is moving down into the testicles. There's all kinds of sensations that you can have. You can experience heat, vibrations, buzzing, humming. Again, noticing tension, like if you've eaten recently or if your diet is not as good as you know that it could be, you're going to probably get a lot of energy that's going to get stuck in your digestive system. This happened to me, namely around, just eating patterns in general, but also I would try and practice this a couple hours after I had dinner, and that doesn't work very well. So best to do this in the morning on an empty stomach, or late at night. The real challenge here is to not do anything and is to relax, right? So I'm swallowing air. My body is doing the work of bringing this energy down, and I'm only compressing using the tiniest, most minimalist amount of force, which really is coming from internal awareness. Just bringing awareness into my genitals from the get-go and not getting hung up on the energy wherever it gets stuck. Because it's going to get there, it's going to move, it's going to dissolve whatever the block is. It may not do that right away. It may be a challenge. You may be feeling like the chi is just lodged in your chest, and that's okay. That's good. That means that there's stuff that you've got to work on in those particular chakras or energy centers, dantians, whatever you want to call them. But eventually what's going to happen is you're going to start to feel, not only physically feeling your balls actually like dropping down in space, but you're also going to feel the container, which feels like it's up here sometimes, right? Here's my little container, right? The container, which is tiny and small, is going to start to go like this. It's going to start to open up, and it's going to start to widen down underneath of you, right? So this is how we talked about the connection with the earth. All of a sudden, this whole system up here is starting to get very calm under the stress of holding your breath and compressing it down. And this space down here, which is where this energy is being stored, is going to get wider, right? So tingling, buzzing, humming in your balls, but also beneath your balls. And I can't remember how he talks about heat. So there can be heat generated, especially right in around here, due to the nature of this whole energy system, right? Heat, creative energy. But below that is also a feeling of cool. So I think this is like, in Taoism, it would be like the lake beneath the fire. So there's a fire here, obviously, right? Sexual energy, but beneath the fire is the cool energy. And so we're working it down to get beyond the fire into the place of cool. So I'm prescribing 3 of these each morning, just 3 rounds, really simple. Do 1, hold for 45 seconds to a minute, let the air out, express the air, and then do bellows breathing in between. In and out through the nose, pumping the belly. That's going to rapidly calm your nervous system down so that you can prepare for another one. So bellows breathing in between, go right into another one. Compress, relax. Don't contract the perineum or the scrotum or anything. No contractions. You're trying to open up. You're trying to open up into the space. And then when you end up doing the practices where there's contraction later on in other practices, when you pull up, you're pulling up from a powerhouse, from a storehouse of power. Yeah, that's it. That's the scrotal compressions. 3 a day. If you have more time than that, do 2 or 3 rounds of 3. But just exercise it, exercise the muscle. Okay, that's it. Scrotal compressions. Peace.